Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to one and all who have assembled in this important webinar. Depends upon whichever the time zone you are in. And this webinar is the first of its kind, which is focusing on the climate resilience. And as a means to achieve the climate resilience, we are using digital pathways. So the topic for today's webinar is Digital Pathways to Climate Resilience, Innovations from Climate Smart Utilities. This is, as you can see, the session 1, and session 2 also will follow after some time. Next slide, please. So this is the agenda for today. I'm Balasubramanian, part of Larsen & Toubro, L&T India, Water and Effluent Treatment Independent Company. I'll be the moderator for today's session. And I'll do the welcome and introduction and housekeeping. And post that, we will have keynote by Andy Nichols, who could not join today because of certain unexpected problem in his flight schedule. But we have got his audio and the slides, we'll be playing it. And there is a case study from Manila Water. And we all know how Manila Water has transformed in terms of water management. Eddie Lumangaya, he will be presenting that. Then there is very interesting case study from Ghana Water Limited done by Mr. Maxwell Akosa Akushi. And followed by that, we will have a moderated Q&A session based on the Q&As, questions which are coming from the audience. And then followed by that, there'll be a closing remarks from my side. So basic thing, as I told in the beginning, the webinar is a series organized by IWA Climate Smart Utilities Initiative and IWA Digital Water Program. And the idea is to drive the climate resilience and as well as the digital transformation in water sector. The first session today is focusing on climate adaptation. Second session focused on climate mitigation is expected to take place somewhere in the last quarter of this year. So we will share the details in some time soon. And this webinar will be recorded and made available on demand on the IWA Connect Plus platform and IWA Network website with all the relevant information. So you can take down certain points, whatever you want, but you will also be able to see this video as well as the presentations in the IWA website after this session is over. And speakers, of course, they are responsible for securing the copyright permissions, if at all, if they use someone else's copyright material. And the opinions, hypotheses, and conclusions, whatever comes in this, it's all purely the material by the speakers, and IWA does not take any responsibility for this. So this is a big thing. There is a chat box you can see in your kind of Zoom app. So if you want to put any general comments, general request, and anything you want to put a comment, use that chat box. If you want any questions to be answered, especially on the topic, please put it in the Q&A box, which we will take it at the end of the session as part of the Q&A session. So before we get into the thing, I just wanted to set some context of the whole thing. And we have talked about climate resilient utilities. So we will see why it is so important in our next slide. This is from the global study. 3 to 7% of the global greenhouse gas is emitted from the utilities. It can be either because of the power that we consume for electricity, for pumping or treatment, or even the treatment that is happening, wastewater biological process, which is emitting a lot of methane, and the biological nutrient removal, which is also releasing a lot of nitrous oxide. So all put together is creating 3 to 7% of global GHG emissions. And that is the reason we are talking about it, that how we can kind of reduce it, how we can completely mitigate it over a period of time. And here, if you can see, it's not one size fits all. So there has to be a differentiated decarbonization strategy, which we will see in our coming from the speakers. So I have also thought about a broad 3A framework: avoid, align, and adopt. Avoid is about avoid wherever possible the less energy efficient equipment and systems, and suboptimal solutions, because we know sometimes we build larger plant for a smaller capacity, smaller requirement, keeping that future demand in mind, but it can also be done in phased manner. So avoid suboptimal solutions, and of course avoid emission of CO2, CH4 and N2O. And in case of align carbon neutrality targets set by many nations, of course the utilities and cities also have got their own targets. So let us align with that. The EU aims for 2050 and US aims for 2050, China 2060 and India for 2070. This is carbon neutrality. And then evolving climate regulations and carbon pricing mechanisms, also we need to align with that so that we can quickly move into that GHG reduction. Then moving on, adapt digital innovations. We are going to see a lot of such use cases today, and renewable energy integration wherever possible. And then let us work on circular economy, especially from wastewater and industrial wastewater and even the stormwater, how we can recirculate the whole thing so that your groundwater depletion is minimized. With this few background, let us hear from Andy. And I'd like to quickly give a brief about Andy, though he could not join in person. He has been kind enough to give a audio of his slides. Andy Nichols is a senior lecturer in water engineering at the University of Sheffield, focusing on infrastructure management, measurement, and modeling. He leads projects on digital sensing and monitoring in the UK water industry, working closely with industry partners to advance data-driven water management. With this, I request Erin to move to the next slide of Andy.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Andy Nichols. I'm a senior lecturer in water engineering at the University of Sheffield in the UK. I'm part of the Sheffield Water Centre, which is a big group of academics and researchers, from scientists to engineers to social scientists and loads of others as well, that all have an interest in the water sector and the future of the water sector. Let me start with a bit of an apology. I did obviously intend and expect to be speaking to you live right now. Unfortunately, fate had other ideas and my flight home from a family holiday last night was cancelled. So we've been sent to a hotel and it looks like the replacement flight is going to be exactly when this webinar is taking place. So unfortunately, I'm recording this version at what is now 1:54 a.m. my time as a bit of a substitute. So I'm sorry I'm not able to speak to you live, but do get in touch with me if there's anything from this that you'd like to discuss. So I'm very pleased to be here talking to you about the importance of digital transformation in building climate smart utilities. As we all know, we are in the midst of a climate crisis and we all need to play our part in addressing that, whether that's through adaptation and being prepared for the impacts of climate change, or through mitigation and trying to reduce our own impact. And water companies have a unique opportunity and in fact a responsibility to be a part of that solution. They really sit at the heart of this and have a responsibility for the resilience of those water systems and for reducing the carbon impact of the water sector as a whole, and all of this while trying to safeguard public health in the services that they provide. And digital transformation can be a real enabler here to support this kind of transition. So what do we mean when we say a climate smart utility? Well, this is a definition that was created by the IWA, and the IWA recognises various water companies around the world that demonstrate these three key facets. The first is adaptation, which is looking at how we can be more resilient to climate change and to climate-driven risks. The second is mitigation, essentially lowering our own impact. How can we reduce greenhouse gas emissions across the water cycle within the water sector? And the third one is really, really important, and that's leadership. So rather than siloed pockets of innovation and change, how can water companies become leaders in this and inspire others, and perhaps inspire other sectors as well? And this is one really good example. Things like IWA events SWIG events, SWAN. There's various organizations that run these kinds of events that help to get people together, talking about these things and really inspiring change. But we recognize that this is all going on at the same time as just trying to get the day-to-day things done. So that operational delivery of the services that people expect at the same time as trying to build this transformation is really, really challenging. And that's where digital tools can really help and support. So actually, rather than it being a burden, it can reduce that pressure. And we see this happening a lot already. We see lots of water companies around the world embracing digitalization in one form or another, to one degree or another. So whether it's one sensor in a system measuring the level somewhere so that you can have some idea of perhaps flood risk, through to perhaps a full-on digital twin of your system that's being fed live data that keeps the twin operational and matching the real-life system that you can then use to run scenario testing, to test different perhaps maintenance strategies and things like that. There's a whole spectrum of ways of implementing digitalization. And ultimately what it does is it enables us to be proactive about things rather than reactive. The big question to keep in mind is why. So it's not just digitalization for digitalization's sake. It's got to be purpose driven. You've got to understand why you're wanting to make these changes so that the changes you make are appropriate and efficient and cost effective. And we'll talk about more of these points in a moment. But, you know, are we doing this for the sake of operational efficiency? Perhaps that's a good goal. Perhaps it's for regulatory compliance. Maybe it's for resilience to those climate impacts. Maybe it's for reducing emissions. But having those goals clear, and it might be multiple goals as well, is really important for defining the systems and the degree of adoption that's necessary for a certain company. It's worth also considering co-benefits. So not just the goal that we might be aiming for, but what else do we achieve alongside that? In a different context, looking at SUDS and green infrastructure, there's the Syria BEST tool, which is an example of a tool that sort of takes into account these additional benefits so that you can build that into your cost benefit analysis when you're thinking about implementing these systems. And perhaps we need something a bit like that for water company digitalization. But there's lots of different levels of maturity, as I said, and it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. So we shouldn't necessarily all be aiming to have all the bells and whistles and digital twins of all of our systems, because it might just be unnecessary. And there's a huge diversity in the scope that would be appropriate for certain water utilities. So whether it's geographical or economic conditions that determine what's possible for you, the right solution needs to depend on all of these factors. And there's various frameworks that you can use to try and work towards digitalization. It's often a bit of an incremental thing rather than a step change. So SWAN released what was the 5 levels of sort of adoption. It's now become a cycle where we go from recognizing a strategic driver. So that's the why. Why are we doing this? Through to what are the physical assets that we want to be able to monitor or control or understand better? And then how are we going to do that? What's the sensing that's going to be implemented? What are the control systems that are going to be implemented? Then what's the data collection method? What's the communication? Is it going to be something on board that somebody's going to have to go out and look at? In some situations that might be perfectly appropriate. Is it something with some communication that gives us real-time data back to some central repository? Then you've got the data management question, and some companies are already dealing with the question of big data and what do we do with all this data? How do we interrogate it? How do we get the most from it? How do we display it in a way that's easy for people to understand and to make decisions based upon? Data fusion and analysis. Can we run advanced analysis on this data? And often where we have data perhaps coming from different systems onto different platforms, they don't necessarily communicate. That's a real challenge, and that's something to address. And that's part of this sort of cycle and step-by-step process that leads us towards better fusion and better use of that data. That then leads to the strategic outcome. And because this is a cycle, brings us back round to that strategic driver. So now we've got this, what can we do next? What should we do next? The business case is very important. Any new idea can be torpedoed because it costs too much. And in some cases, digitalization can be expensive. If you're building a full-on digital twin driven by a suite of sensors throughout your system that's beaming data back to a central location for advanced data analysis, it's not going to be cheap. But the risks of inaction are similarly not cheap. So the business case needs to be made, and we need to weigh up those costs and opportunities to decide where's that balance point, what's the most appropriate type of solution for my system. So the consideration of long-term return on investment, impacts on service quality, and as I said, those co-benefits as well, things like public health and equity and service continuity also need to be brought into that equation when you're trying to decide what the solution should be. So there's loads of opportunities. There's loads of water companies that are already doing these things and showing the value and showing that leadership. But there's challenges as well, and there's blockages to the adoption of new systems. There's hurdles to be got over. I mentioned big data. Sometimes it's easy to collect data. Getting something from it can be a lot harder. And maybe getting something beyond the simple can actually drive a lot more value. And being able to know what that is can then build that business case. And this is all about that leadership and learning from each other as well. Cybersecurity is a huge concern. We've seen various examples around the world where these kinds of systems can be hacked, and the introduction of chemicals, for example, into water distribution systems can be hacked. And that's a real danger, and it's a growing concern, and that's a huge area that needs a lot of work to make sure that we're prepared. Not just prepared for climate risks, but prepared for these kinds of risks as well. Capacity building is a big issue. So, just having the people with the skills within your water company, perhaps, or outsourcing the delivery of these systems, having that capacity to be able to deliver something of this scale is a concern. And then we've got this integration with legacy systems, and I talked about different platforms that maybe don't communicate so well with each other. That's a real challenge as well. As we add new tools, we've got to make sure that we're doing so in the most logical way, that we can get the best value from it given what we already have. And perhaps that means some upgrading, perhaps it means having a data layer that kind of brings everything together in one place so that we can use it more effectively. But if we can get over those challenges, the future is really exciting for the water industry. There's so much potential with things like digital twins, integrated solutions, the emergence of AI and the explosion of AI and its ability to support decision making. Can we get to a point where certain decisions don't need any human intervention whatsoever? In some cases, we're kind of there already. But how much power do we want to give over to AI? How do we manage that? How do we control it? It's quite exciting. Real-time control as well, and we've seen lots of systems emerging that can help us to control our systems, help us to control the flow of water, perhaps in drainage systems, in distribution systems, based on real-time data, and again, without that human intervention, to give us real-time control and help us to adapt to those oncoming climate risks. Other opportunities around things like water-based epidemiology, and I sit at the moment on the advisory board for the Centre for Water-Based Epidemiology in the UK, and there's so much really exciting things there. We saw this explosion of activity from COVID, where we were looking at tracking areas with high COVID exposure through sampling of the wastewater. There's so much else that can be done in that area as well, which is very exciting. So I'm going to wrap things up there because I can see I'm already over time. So digital transformation, it's already happening. We're seeing it in so many places, so many pockets of excellent work, and that leadership and sharing of that work as well, which is fantastic. There's so much potential for this to go further, to give us better real-time monitoring, proactive actions to help us manage our infrastructure. There are limitations, there are challenges that we need to overcome, whether it's in terms of budgets, having the workforce and the skills, or having the infrastructure to be able to put these digital solutions in place. And maybe the best way of overcoming these is through sharing and through talking. And that's what today is all about. Thank you.
So, of course, sincere thanks to Andy. Despite all the hardship that he is going through, he could spend time too late in the night. I recorded this, his audio. Of course, slides were sent. So thanks, Andy. And of course, he covered very nicely about starting from why and then what are the different levels of digitalization, maturity levels he spoke about, frameworks. And finally, of course, despite the challenges part he spoke very nicely about one of the very interesting things which I found, that sharing of the best practices is an important for seeding the innovation. And exactly this is what IW is doing. And so thanks to Andy. We'll move on to the next speaker. Our next speaker is Eddie Aldrin Lumangaya, and he serves as the operations department head at Manila Water Company, where he spearheads innovation management, data analytics, and control center operations. He leads operations initiatives in artificial intelligence, machine learning, and smart technologies to advance operational efficiency and support the company's broader goal of building climate resilient and future ready water services. He leads the development of data driven systems for enhanced operations monitoring, water demand projection, and water quality forecasting. With this background introduction of Eddie, I request Eddie to take the next keynote speech. Over to you, Eddie.
Good day, everyone. Mabuhay. I am Eddie Aldrin Lumangaya, Head of Innovations Department and Operations Control and Data Analytics Department at Manila Water Company. It's a real privilege to be part of this panel. Today, I'll share how our utility is using digital tools, not just to keep the taps running, but to stay resilient in the face of climate change. So I'd like to start with by introducing our company. So Manila Water started in 1997 as one of the government's concessionaires in Metro Manila. Back then, system losses were very high and supply was unreliable. Over the years, we expanded the network and brought water availability close to 100%. We also reduced non-revenue water from 63% down to just 14%, something that was unprecedented in the Philippines at that time. Today, we're present in other parts of the country such as Boracay, Laguna, Clark, Cebu, and Tagum, and even abroad in Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, and Saudi Arabia. But what inspires us more is our ESG commitment for 2025, reducing greenhouse gases, protecting watersheds, improving efficiency, and ensuring water security for the long term. As climate-related challenges intensify, from prolonged droughts to severe flooding, water utilities are under growing pressure, not just to deliver water, but to deliver services that are resilient, efficient, and sustainable. The challenge is no longer just how do we supply water, but how do we transform the way we operate so we can adapt and lead in this new reality. Under the Climate Smart Utilities framework, we recognize that adaptation, mitigation, and leadership must be integrated across the entire value chain. At Manila Water, this means embedding climate smart thinking into how we plan, how we invest, and how we innovate. And digital solutions are at the heart of the transformation. Over the past years, we've built a strong digital backbone. SCADA and automation to monitor and control facilities in real time, GIS and hydraulic modeling to plan and respond to network challenges, IoT sensors and cloud platforms to integrate and analyze data, and customer-facing apps and digital payment channels to make services more accessible. But beyond efficiency, these tools are about resilience. They allow us to anticipate, to adjust, and to recover faster when the climate impacts hit. So climate change is hitting utilities on two fronts. Number one, water availability, and number two, water quality. We see supply becoming less predictable, droughts lowering raw water, and floods disrupting systems. At the same time, water quality is under stress, with higher turbidity, salinity, and pollution challenges. For a utility like ours, these pressures make operations far more complex. It's not enough to simply automate processes. We need intelligence, the ability to anticipate, adapt, and respond ahead of time. That is why we have embedded digital intelligence into our operations. We're moving from hindsight to foresight, using machine learning as one of our key levers to better manage climate-related risks. So the first project I'll share with you is the water consumption forecasting tool developed in-house by our team. So just to set the context, think about this. In Metro Manila's East Zone, we serve 23 cities and municipalities. That's around 7.8 million people. So in any given day, demand ranges from between 1.6 to 1.7 billion liters of water. Now imagine trying to plan production, choosing the right water sources, and balance a network area at that scale, especially with the impacts of climate on supply. For years, we relied on manual forecasting. It worked. However, with the climate variability, it lacked agility to keep up with the current situation. So we developed a machine learning model using 16 years of build volume data, more than a dozen of weather parameters, plus economic signals like customer growth, holidays, even night lights. And we tested 28 different algorithms, and the best performing model gave us a 99.5% accuracy. With this, we can optimize water production, cut energy use, and deliver more consistently to our customers. Even weather patterns change suddenly. And because it's developed internally, it is scalable, maintainable, and deeply contextualized. So if the first project was about how much water or quantity, the second one is about quality of water. Laguna de Bay is the largest lake in the Philippines. Actually, in terms of land area, it's bigger than Singapore. And it's a major source for us. We operate two big treatment plants here. One is Cardona treatment plant at 100 mld capacity and East Bay at 50 mld. And in a few months, we will be commissioning a 200 mld facility, getting water from this water source. So quantity from this source is abundant, but the real challenge is quality. High nutrients, sudden turbidity spikes, and salinity intrusion that sometimes goes beyond the plant design limits. And these spikes can upset processes, reduce efficiency, or even interrupt supply. So again, we turn to machine learning. Using 6 years of water quality records, especially for Cardona, weather parameters, and lake level data, we trained models to forecast turbidity and total dissolved solids at our intakes. Now, our operators get weekly forecasts, an early warning system. It allows them to prepare, adjust treatment process, secure the right chemicals, and keep water flowing despite difficult conditions. This is more than just predicting numbers. It's about building operational resilience in a changing climate. So what do these two projects tell us? A few things stand out for me. Number one, start with what you have. We didn't wait for perfect systems nor big vendors. We started with the data that we already had. Number two, tailor your solutions to your context. What works for Manila Water may not work for another utility, and that's okay. The key is making solutions fit your system and your risks. Number three, keep purpose at the center. Technology is not the end goal, it's a means to secure safe, reliable water for people, especially under climate stress. So for me, that's what being a climate smart utility is all about. Using innovation not just for its own sake or not for its own sake, but to ensure we can continue serving communities in a world that's rapidly changing. So yeah, thank you very much. Let's keep learning from each other. Let's innovate with purpose and let's build utilities that can stand strong against climate challenges. Thank you.
You had a very profound statement. Whatever the innovation should be built to purpose. I think we are also seeing many places, you said, don't do it for the sake of doing, align with it, your purpose. And very interestingly, you said that start from where you are. Because when you said about 16 years of data you had, it was little mind-boggling because not every utility might have, but certainly you are paving the way for that. But doesn't matter, wherever you are, you start from there and then suit your innovations to your requirement. The objective is to make it climate resilient, not digital per se. It's only a means to achieve that. Very, very well said. And thanks for your very interesting address. We'll come back to you with the Q&A. Now we are moving on to our next speaker. Again, another very interesting session we are going to have from Maxwell Akosha Kushi. Currently, he works as a manager responsible for non-revenue water management in Ghana Water Limited. He has led many change projects such as electronic billing deployment, smart metering, SCADA systems, among others. His areas of expertise are design of water supply systems, analysis of urban water distribution systems, GIS and mapping, and DMA design and implementation. Over to you, Maxwell.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I'm also very excited to be here to deliver this all-important presentation about digital pathways to climate resilience. And I'll be talking about how Ghana Water has been putting effort to become climate smart. Next slide, please. So a little bit about Ghana Water. If you click again, Ghana is located in the west coast of Africa, and the company has responsibility for the entire country, supplying potable water to the urban centers in the country. So our core mandate is that we must abstract water, treat and transport it through a network of pipelines, and then supply to a myriad of consumers. Currently, we have about 1 million customer connections who are connected to more than 14,000 kilometers of network all across the country. And we are supplying these people through surface water as well as groundwater systems, and in some cases, a combination of these systems. Next slide. Now, just to give you just a brief list of some of the things that we've been doing in terms of creating our own digital pathways. I have broadly categorized them into two. The first is operational optimization, where we've deployed GIS, where we have been using hydraulic network models, where we have adapted limited, supervisory control and data acquisition systems. We are also using smart meters. We are designing DMAs in a way to help us to reduce water losses within the distribution system. And these are all geared towards optimizing our operations, making the most out of it. And the other selected interventions are the deployment of an electronic billing system, which manages the downstream side of our operations, where meter reading and other things are done. As I mentioned, we introduced smart meters. There is also a digital payment system and some leak detection activities that for us bode very well in terms of becoming climate smart by reducing our energy footprints and things like that. These are a lot of things that we are doing. And so for the purpose of this webinar, I'm going to focus on just 3 things. Next slide. The first thing that I want to focus on is the billing system. So what we have done is that before we started this whole digitization drive, our officials would normally move to customers' premises, manually record their meter readings in books, transfer them to very designated offices where these things are typed and entered into an old system. The idea was to bill customers. Now, this process was fraught with a number of challenges, some being multiple entry routes for meter reading. People were making a lot of errors in terms of what readings were to be billed to customers, and there was a lot of under reading, or all of these leading to the high case of non-revenue water. And so we sought to reduce all of that to a single mode where the guy reading the meter just needs to be at the customer's premise within a geofence, and then read the meter with their mobile device. And once that reading is taken, all the entire cycle that I'm showing you then reduces into one. The reading is taken and billing is done automatically in the background. So that is the first thing that we have done. And we've done this to, please go on. We've done this to achieve these four very important objectives. The first is to remove what we call armchair meter reading. What this simply means is that now it prevents our staff or those who go around to read the meters from actually sitting down and estimating what figures there are for the customers. And so it means that without being present in the customer's premise, you will not be able to read. And by doing so, what we've done is that we've also reduced the time that it would take. Before, it would take about 60 days between reading the meter and entering the data, processing it before the customer receives their bill. Now we are almost reducing that to a day, but currently we are at 28 days as per law, and we only need to make a few changes, and we are going to do what we call on-demand billing, so that the billing is given to the consumer or the customer the moment the meter is read. The next thing is that we have also reduced a lot of billing errors. We've improved a lot of supervision and monitoring, and now there is a lot of data available to have insight into what is happening within the downstream side of our operations. We have also established, based on this system, a core system for developing automatic meter reading. And in doing so, we have digitized our payment systems, and you can see the rise in digital payments rising between 2015 and 2024 from just about 0.5% of our total payments to about 15% as at the end of 2024. The aim is to get to 40% by the end of this year, 2025, and we are well on course to doing that. What this means is that now customers do not need to visit our cashiering points to make payments for their bill. All they have to do is just have an access to a mobile phone. It doesn't even have to be a smartphone, any mobile phone at all, and they are able to pay their water bills on time to avoid disconnection and other things like that. Next slide, please. Now, the next digitization activity I want to talk about is using drones to read meters. And I want to tell you about the Tetegu story. Tetegu is a community in the urban settlement of Accra along the coast, which is in a flood zone. Now, because it's an informal settlement, the activities in there are not controlled. However, the people there need water. And so under a World Bank initiative, we did a connection for the people so that they can also have access to potable water, since water is a right. Now, after doing that, we realized that reading the meters became an issue, because whenever it rained, our people could not have access to these flooded areas to be able to read the meters. Remember, we have introduced smart meters, and so the meters that we installed in these areas are smart meters that we could read remotely, and then they are all meters that are sort of flood prone, and so even though they are underwater, nothing would happen to the meters, and so we only needed to find a way to read the meters. And so what we did was to introduce what we would call a flyby approach, where, as you can see on the left side of the screen, we would plot a flight path and then attach our meter reading devices, which would be a radio converter to our meter reading to the phone. With this attachment, we fly the drone over the entire area, and whilst doing that, we read all the meters. And we are reading, in total, there are about 550 customers in this area, and we read all these meters using the drone. We only need to fly over the area, and then we have gone ahead to read the meters. So this is how we are beating, the flood issue or the flood incidents that occur in the Tetegu community. And remember, we do all of this between starting the drone flight and completing it, we will finish the meter reading within 15 minutes for all 550 customers. Then we would be done. Next slide, please. This is just a short video to try to explain the drone flights issue that I was talking about. The whole idea of using drones to read meters came about one afternoon. So under the Gamma Water and Sanitation project, one of the key outputs was to extend water supply services to low-income communities. And one of these communities is Tetegu in the western part of Accra. Now, the characteristics of this community is that they lacked water, the settlement is unplanned, and typically it's a flood zone. So when it rains heavily, the whole area floods. We did extend water services to them, and then we installed Camstrop smart meters. Now, these are meters that are able to remotely transmit their data, so we can read the meters remotely. And so we conducted a drive-by test there. But more importantly, it was very, very difficult for us to reach and be able to drive through the community when it rained. And so we introduced the drone technology where we attach the radio converters to the drones as well as the smartphones. And then we fly the drones all over the community, and in a matter of minutes we are able to read 509 smart meters that have been installed within the Tetegu community. The latest flight that we did, we were able to read 350 meters within 3 minutes of flying the drone within this community. So that is that about the drone flight. The last thing I want to speak about is how we are modeling leak detection. So this is just a leak detection field that we have created, some sort of a training field where we simulate the real world network. Remember, I mentioned that we have about 14,000 kilometers of network. And so we are dealing with a lot of leakages, a lot of bursts, a lot of overflows and stuff like that. So we simulate all of these on this field where we undertake training, practical training, to allow our people, our staff, to understand exactly what happens in the real network, to be able to apply these techniques in the real network to be able to reduce leakages. I think that should do for the cases that I wanted to speak about. Thank you.
Thanks, Maxwell, for a wonderful presentation, and the video was very inspiring. And I could see the way that the meters, not the meter, the meter readers were attached to the drone with a very minimum involvement. It's a normal drone and your meter reading device, both combined together, is making, you said, 350 readings in 3 minutes. Amazing. And really, we can call it as a frugal innovation. So innovation doesn't cost much, but only it costs, means how you are able to innovate the whole thing. So thanks, Maxwell, and thanks, Eddie and Andy, all of you. We'll move on to the Q&A session. I'm seeing a lot of questions are started coming in. And I'll start from my side. I just would like to ask first question to Maxwell. Maxwell, in India, we are trying to use the digital twin for leak detection and leak identification. Which means there'll be this network is placed on top of a digital network, and then based on the consumption, based on the the DMA performance, it says where there is a potential leakage. I have seen that you have created a model in your last slide. You are showing about it. So have you tried anything of that nature, which using the digital technology to identify or localize the leaks?
Yes, we have. But then what we found was that the accuracy within which, you first need to have very accurate GIS data, which must correspond with exactly what is underground. We are talking about buried networks here. And then also your satellite imagery and, orthophotos and things like that must also be accurate and must situate within the same coordinate frame. Now, what the challenge we found was that often, while the analytics will give you some specific locations within a certain accuracy, you still need to do a lot of work in trying to pinpoint the geolocation of these lakes. And so for us, it really cannot be any easier. You just need to put in the work, combine these analytics, and then human, force in detecting these leakages. That is why we are adding the training field on how to train the ear to actually listen to the sound of leaks, because for us that is very, very critical. Even beyond that, what we've done is that we've flown drones along our major transmission lines. We can call it a transect walk, where we are able to combine the nature of the soil with the visual images that we see, how the vegetation along the pipe route is like. Luckily, we have a bimodal climate system where it rains in certain parts of the year and then it is dry in certain parts of the year. So during the dry periods, we expect, the fly path to be dry. But if it is not the case, then we can suspect that something is going on there. So we've done something in that corridor.
Oh, thanks, Maxwell. And of course, I agree with you. It cannot be as accurate, so you may have to do a whole lot of work all over again. Thanks for your response. And there is a question from Kazuya Naito to Eddie. Eddie, he has mentioned that I understand that machine learning was effective in managing the daily water volume and quality. However, how would you respond in the event of an extreme accident that exceeds the predictions made by the machine learning? Eddie, to you.
Hello. Yeah, thank you for that. And it's good that you noted that extreme conditions are not part of the forecasts of the machine learning because it's not part of the routine. So in cases like that, first for the detection, so we have pressure transmitters across our network, so we will be able to know whether there are disturbances. So number two, we also monitor the calls of our customers. So in cases like that, we immediately respond by setting up automated alerts whenever we see variances or non-conformances in terms of our systems. So in those cases, we immediately calibrate our supply so that we will not be able to throw much of the water, but still be able to resolve the issue as fast as possible. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah. But you can only do that much. Of course, like you rightly mentioned, any such extreme situations may not be part of the AI or ML algorithm because that may not be there. And one more question. I think this is from Mr. Vishwanath. How can digital climate smart innovations be structured so that both large metropolitan utilities and smaller municipalities can benefit equitably, especially in regions with weak digital infrastructure? So is there a solution? Of course, you said one size doesn't fit all. But the question is, can you have a solution which can be used for a larger metropolitan as well as a smaller municipality?
Well, the framework itself is adaptable and usable also to other area, whether it be small or big. It's just that we need to tailor fit the solution given the same framework that we have to those other facilities or to those smaller areas such that we will be able to get as much or comparable results, so to speak.
Okay. I'm just moving on to the next question because we also have a bit of time thing. I think both either you or Maxwell can respond to this. How long can the smart meters be submerged in water? This is a question from Stephen Bogier.
So it actually does depend on the manufacturer, but in the particular case of the Camstrop meters that we are using, we have seen meters being submerged for up to 3 weeks, practically, in our setting, where nothing happened to the meter. The manufacturer only guaranteed, I think, a few days, 3 days or so, up to 1.5 meters. But practically, we've seen meters submerged for up to 3 weeks and nothing happened to it.
Oh, very nice. Then Maxwell, one more question to you. There's a question on, given the advanced digital solutions. No, not that. There was one more question which I was seeing, which was on. You have used drone for reading the meter readings. Have you not tried AMI? Automated metering infrastructure.
Yes. So what we are doing is, even with the drone, we would call it AMI in some sense, because I mean you are still putting in place the transmission infrastructure to do that. But what we are doing is that concurrently with the drone approach, we are also installing AMI gateways where we are reading the meters remotely without anybody having to be within the vicinity of where the meters are. And that one is almost done. I didn't speak about it because it's very, very recent. We've only tested 4,000 meters that we are currently reading remotely, but eventually we are going to have about 32,000 meters on this AMI in Accra, where the meters are being read automatically. That is currently being done. That is why I didn't speak about it. I want to speak about it at a time that I know we have some very good results. But so far, the 4,000 is showing very good promise, and we believe that that may even be the way to go rather than the drones.
If I may ask, Maxwell, from my side, what is the level of non-revenue water that you currently have in Ghana Water?
Currently, we are doing about 49%.
49%.
Reduced
And
from
what's your target? How
Our
much
target-
it has to come?
Our target is to get to about 35% within the next 5 years.
Oh, excellent.
This is the entire country, not just one system. So we are
Understood.
dealing with about 86 active systems, which are providing about 340 million cubes of water a year. So that should give you the scale that we are working with.
Oh, very nice. Thank you. And of course, this can be answered by Eddie. There's a question from one Mr. Vishwanath. Given the advanced digital solutions are often cost intensive, you also spoke about it, and Andy also spoke about it about cost. What innovative business or financing models the utilities and technology providers exploring to make them viable and in a cost sensitive market?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So we are also experiencing the same thing where we're finding challenges in terms of building business case for digital solutions. But we always go back to which solution or which pain point would give us the maximum benefit. So we focus on that. So once we identify the pain point that would give us maximum benefit, we identify the best solution. So we scan the market, we check with our internal capabilities, same what we did here in machine learning, and determine the best route such that we will be able to identify the best solution that would be of minimum capex or minimum opex, but we'll be able to push the needle in terms of our P&L.
Thank you so much, Eddie. And since we don't have Andy today joining live, the questions to Andy can be given to the email ID of him, and I think that will be shared as part of the presentation by IWA. So no more questions I'm seeing in the Q&A, and so we'll move on to the next slide. So I'm taking this opportunity to inform you all, IWA needs no introduction. They keep doing a lot of very interesting, innovative, inspiring, insightful events. And Water Horizons is going to happen in 24 and 25 September in London, UK. Registrations are open, and you can click the link below, and then you can secure your spot and you can attend this. And this is going to be again transforming the utilities for a resilient net zero future. And you can also see a lot of upcoming webinars and events. You can go to IWA website, and there you can click the link and you can find which are all the webinars which are upcoming, and you can register it upfront so that your calendar can be blocked and you can attend. And they keep it very, very crisp and very pointed and very effective. So you can, very, very effective, that much I can tell you. And then this is something, the flagship event of IWA, which is going to happen, the Development Congress in Bangkok. this time 8th and 12th December. Registrations are open, and this will be very, very interesting and informative for you. The whole world, the leaders, when it comes to water, they'll be attending this. And you can also join if some of you are not already the member of IWA, or if you want some of your professional colleagues to join IWA, please ask them. This is the way, and they also for 20% discount is being offered by IWA for the new membership if you join before 31st December. That's it from our side, and I thank one and all for joining this very interesting webinar. I'm sure all of you would have got some takeaways from this webinar, which you can go and apply in your workplace. And as IWA confirmed, this will be available to all the people who have attended in the form of PDF, and the recordings are available in the IWA website. So thank you one and all, and thanks IWA for giving us this opportunity to share our thoughts and to share our learnings. Thank you, IWA.